Shri Radha Namo Namaha. At first, I offer my humble prayers in the lotus feet of Lord Shri Radha Krishna. I also extend warm greetings and respect to all of you. Today, from the scripture Vivekcudamani, composed by Adi Shri Sankaracarya ji, we will be listening chapter number 6. The holy words from the scripture are as follows. When all the five sheaths have been eliminated, the self of a man appears, pure of the essence of everlasting and unalloyed bliss, indwelling, supreme, and self-effulgent. To remove his bondage, the man should discriminate between the self and the non-self. By that alone he comes to know his own self as existence, knowledge, bliss, absolute, and becomes happy. He indeed is free who discriminates between all sense objects and the indwelling, unattached, and inactive self, as one separates a stalk of grass from its enveloping sheath and merging everything in it, remains in a state of identity with that. This body of ours is a product of food and comprises the material sheath. It lives on food and dies without it. It is a mass of skin, flesh, blood, bones, and filth, and can never be eternally pure, self-existent Atman. It does not exist prior to inception or posterior to dissolution, but lasts only for a short period. Its virtues are transient and it is changeful by nature. It is manifold, inert, and is a sense object like a jar. How can it be one's own self, the witness of change in all things? The body consisting of arms, legs, and so on cannot be the Atman, for one constitutes to live even when particular limbs are gone, and the different functions of the organism also remain intact. The body which is subject to another's rule cannot be the self which is the ruler of all. That the Atman as the abiding reality is different from the body, its characteristics, its activities, its states, and so on, of which it is the witness, is self-evident. How can the body, being a pack of bones covered with flesh, full of filth and highly impure, be the self-existent Atman, the knower which is ever distinct from it? It is the foolish man who identifies himself with a mass of skin, flesh, fat, bones, and filth, while the man of discrimination knows his own self, the own reality, that there is a distinct from the body. The stupid man thinks he is the body. The book-learned man identifies himself with the mixture of body and soul, while the sage, possessed of realization due to discrimination, looks upon the eternal Atman as his self and thinks, I am Brahman. O foolish person, cease to identify thyself with this bundle of skin, flesh, fat, bones, and filth, and identify thyself instead with the absolute Brahman, the self of all, and thus attain a supreme peace. As long as the book-learned man does not give up his mistaken identification with the body, organs, and the like which are unreal, there is no talk of emancipation for him, even if he be ever so erudite in the Vedanta philosophy. Just as thou dost not identify thyself with the shadow body, the image body, the dream body, or the body thou hast in the imaginations of thy heart, cease thou to do likewise with the living body also. Identification with the body alone is the root that produces the misery of birth and the like of people who are attached to the unreal. Therefore destroy thou this with the utmost care. When this identification caused by the mind is given up, there is no more chance of rebirth. The prana, with which we are all familiar, coupled with the five organs of action, forms the vital sheath, permeated by which the material sheath engages itself in all activities as if it were living. Neither is the vital sheath of the shelf, because it is modification of Vayu, and like the air it enters into and comes out of the body, and because it never knows in the least either its own will and woe or those of others, being eternally dependent on the self. The organs of knowledge together with the mind form the mental sheath, the cause of the diversity of things such as I and mine. It is powerful and endued with the faculty of creating differences of name and the like. It manifests itself as permeating the preceding, that is the vital sheath. The mental sheath is the sacrificial fire which, fed with the fuel of numerous desires by the sense organs, serves as priest, and set ablaze by the sense object which act as the stream of oblations, brings about this phenomenal universe. There is no ignorance, avidya, outside the mind. The mind alone is avidya, the cause of the bondage of transmigration. When that is destroyed, all else is destroyed, and when it is manifested, everything else is manifested. In dreams, when there is no actual contact with the external world, the mind alone creates the whole universe consisting of the experiencer and the like. Similarly, in the waking state also there is no difference. Therefore, all this phenomenal universe is a projection of the mind. In dreamless sleep, when the mind is reduced to its causal state, there exists nothing for the person asleep, as it is evident from the universal experience. Hence, man's relative existence is simply the creation of his mind and has no objective reality. Clouds are brought in by the wind and again driven away by the same agency. Similarly, man's bondage is caused by the mind and liberation too is caused by that alone. It creates an attachment in man for the body and all other sense objects and binds him through that attachment like a beast by means of ropes. Afterwards, the self-same mind creates in the individual an utter distaste for these sense objects as if they were poison and frees him from the bondage. Therefore, the mind is the only cause that brings about man's bondage or liberation. When tainted by the effects of rajas, it leads to bondage, and when pure and divested of the rajas and tamas elements, it conduces to liberation. Attaining purity through a preponderance of discrimination and renunciation, the mind makes for liberation. Hence, the wise seeker after liberation must first strengthen these two. In the forest tract of sense pleasure, there prowls a huge tiger called the mind. Let good people who have a longing for liberation never go there. The mind continually produces for the experiencer all sense objects without exception, whether perceived as gross or fine. The difference of body, caste, order of life, and tribe, as well as the varieties of qualification, action, means, and results. Deluding the jiva, which is unattached, pure intelligence, and binding it by the ties of body, organs, and pranas, the mind causes it to wander with ideas of I and mine amidst the varied enjoyment of results achieved by self. Man's transmigration is due to the evil of superimposition, and the bondage of superimposition is created by the mind alone. It is this that causes the miseries of birth and so on for the man of non-discrimination who is tainted by rajas and tamas. Hence, sages who have fathomed its secret have designated the mind as avidya or ignorance, by which alone the universe is moved to and fro like masses of clouds by the wind. Thus conclude today's chapter from the scripture Vivekcudamani. Thank you for listening. Shri Radha Krishnaya Namo Namaha.